Jordan?
Yeah?
Do you know how, well, you know quite a lot about Formula 1, so here's a bit of an odd question for you, right?
Okay.
There's a driver who's going to make a comeback into Formula 1, okay, for 2019, okay?
Right.
And he only has one win in his career.
Alright, okay.
Who is that driver?
Right, one win.
It's a hard one.
Season.
Could be here a long time.
Could be here a while. Oh god, there's loads of drivers who want one win. Good driver. Oh yeah! Oh yes! It's Pastor Maldonado! Isn't it?
You serious?
Sergio Sorokin was in Formula 1 with Williams F1 team, partnering Lance Stroll, and he did a good season. He scored his first point in Italy, which has been the first time in a long time every person on the grid has scored at least 1 point in the championship. Done a good drive, I'd say, and obviously put Williams in a struggling car in a good position. But obviously, we're unfortunately saying goodbye to him in the championship. Obviously, a beloved driver, one of everyone's favourite drivers on the Formula 1 grid of 2018, and we're saying goodbye to him, and we're bringing in a very strange guy, and a one that's been, bringing a lot of hype, a lot of controversy, a lot of talking, and obviously a big discussion for us to talk about on the F1 debate show. And obviously that is bringing in 33-year-old Polish Formula 1 driver Robert Kubica. Now, he's been in Formula 1 before. He has driven, he's had one race victory at the 2008 Canadian Grand Prix, and he's been in Formula 1 in the early 2000s, obviously doing a good race with 12 podiums and I'd say a pretty good Formula 1 career at that time. Obviously, he came out in 2009 to pursue a career in rallying. Didn't go very well, and obviously it got, just after a few years after leaving Formula 1, a few years into being in rallycross, obviously disaster struck. He had a crash. Really terrible of him, and obviously that resulted in a very bad injury to his arm. Obviously, we were all fearing the worst. Formula 1 driver, obviously, any injury of any nature, obviously, is not good to see. We've seen in the last few years, obviously, some big accidents, not just in Formula 1, but in NASCAR, in F2, and F3, and things like that. Obviously, some drivers have walked away, some drivers haven't, some drivers have recovered. Unfortunately, some drivers haven't, but we were all fearing for Robert Kubica. Thankfully, he made a recovery. I think this was about the early 2011s, and he has been chasing, trying to get back into Formula 1. Now, the news came that Robert was looking at a Formula 1 drive with Renault back in 2016 in 2017 around the Hungarian Grand Prix. This came out around when Felipe Massa took ill at the Hungarian Grand Prix of that year, and obviously gave a drive up to Paul di Resta. There was talk about Robert rejoining with Renault, and obviously his connection with Williams F1 team. He then drove the test with Renault in that same year, which was at the Hungarian Grand Prix. That's why I remember it. Obviously just going into the summer break, and then he also did some testing at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This year, obviously with hype and speculation around is he going to enter Formula 1 for the 2018 season, well, that didn't happen. Obviously they signed out the young Russian driver of Sergei Sorokin, obviously the F2 driver, who did, as I say, a good season and a pretty good and reliable driver. I've got to say, I mean, hats off to that guy. Did quite well. It might not have been everyone's favourite, but no, I think he did quite well. So Sergio was in, Robert had to sit on the sidelines, but obviously Williams F1 through their struggling car, and obviously pretty bad season, obviously compared to what the Oxford Debates team have done in their past. Now Robert Kubica has been signed. He replaces Sergei Sorokin's seat, and obviously now that Lance Stroll has gone off to Racing Point, which his dad owns. I mean, did you see that coming? I mean, who did you think Lance Stroll was ever going to go to Racing Point? I mean, that came out of nowhere. I mean, unbelievable. It was insane. So he went off to Racing Point for some reason. Obviously, I don't know what ties he had there, but he went off to the Pink Panthers, and obviously we also say goodbye to Force, and obviously they get rid of their name. So when Lance Stroll goes after that, and obviously they sign then 19-year-old George Russell, great driver, and obviously the newly crowned Formula 2 world champion. Obviously, where we've seen a lot of Formula 2 world champions such as Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton, and of course, obviously Charles Leclerc. So it's a good pairing from Williams. Now, George Russell, great. We've talked about him before. He's been signed. He's a good driver of the F2, very young. He became the 3rd British driver on the grid, obviously alongside Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, but today's episode is just talking about Robert Kubica, and obviously, as I said at the start, 12 podiums, 1 race win at the 2008 Canadian Grand Prix. That was the same year, that was the year after he had his very big crash. Obviously, we all remember when he had that crash at Montreal, obviously one of the biggest crashes we've seen in modern day Formula 1, obviously really changed safety aspects and things like that. So, I mean, it's a big move, him coming into Formula 1 now. Obviously, the biggest guy that we've seen, make a comeback in Formula 1 was obviously Michael Schumacher. Now, so just quickly before we talk about Robert Kubica, obviously I always thought Michael's comeback was insane. Obviously, I love Michael Schumacher. Obviously, of course, everyone else does out there. Jordan does. I mean, you can't not love Formula 1. You can't not love Michael Schumacher, sorry. Obviously, F1 and Michael Schumacher go hand in hand. Obviously, more successful guy on paper. Even though Lewis Hamilton is chasing him down, but he still is very successful. Obviously, 91 wins, 7 championships, and things like that. Obviously, really great guy, and yeah, obviously he had his career, came out in 2006, and he came back in 2010. Obviously, came back in, some good finishes. Obviously, also the big thing that he did in his career was obviously help with Williams Mercedes. He helped with Mercedes, get from just a mediocre team, obviously mediocre comeback, to obviously one of the biggest teams. When he left in 2012, they were a big team, and of course obviously made the way for Lewis Hamilton. Really, Michael Schumacher started their unbelievable V6 turbo era, and obviously the big thing that I always tell everyone, especially Jordan, I always say he got pole position in the 2012 Monaco Grand Prix. Yep. He did get pole position. He beat Sebastian Vettel's Red Bull and Mark Webber's Red Bull and the Ferraris and things like that. The only reason he didn't win, and obviously he started in 6th place, was because he got a 5th-place grid penalty in Spain, but nevertheless he got pole in Monaco. Anyway, sorry, that was about Michael. This is about Robert. But so Michael's career, Michael's comeback was good. It was promising. It was good. He did things that he wanted to do in Formula 1, which was make a comeback. He wasn't ready to retire yet. He helped he helped Mercedes progress. I'm sorry about it. He helped Mercedes progress, and he obviously paved the way for Toto Wolff. He definitely helped him obviously get to the position that he was at that time. I think he was just newly acquainted, obviously team principal at that time. He helped Niki Lauda. Obviously he got established in the team around that year. Yep. He obviously had a big influence of bringing Lewis Hamilton in, and of course helped Nico Rosberg in the team. Nico got his first win in that season and promoted the Silver Arrows. So very successful from him. Really fantastic. Obviously his career the first time was great, but he wasn't ready to retire. Now, is Robert ready to retire yet? He probably wasn't when he did. He went into Rallycross, was pretty. It wasn't very good for him. I don't think he got any race wins. He had that incident, wasn't very good. Obviously, very sketchy for him. But he pulled through, made a comeback, and obviously he's now back in Formula 1. Now, 33 years of age, is not ready to retire. But is he ready to take a Formula 1 seat? And is he ready to take a Formula 1 seat when there's just so many young guns out there? You have Sergio Sirotkin, yeah, he's early 20s. He's out of a seat now, but he was doing an okay job, and you've got to say he was doing an okay job for a Williams driver. For a driver who's in that Williams car. Williams, come on, they were pretty pathetic. They were like the 2015 version of McLaren. No offense, Williams, but you were slipping under the radar there. You have people like Stoffel Van Dorn. Obviously, he drove for McLaren. He did an okay job, but obviously again he was in that struggle in McLaren. He could have been waiting in the wigs there. You have Paul di Resta, the reserve driver. Again, I think he's early 30s now. Obviously, he works for Sky F1, but obviously he is, as I say, the test driver. So he's beating all them people out. He's an old driver, unfortunately you've got a realistic, in Formula 1 you're 33 years old, so beating all them drivers, taking that seat for a second time round. Now, see Jordan, I'll bring you in now. Really, Robert Kubica, is he just doing this to kind of see what his own self-worth is, to say, right, okay, I'm going to stretch my legs, I'm going to get back into Formula 1? Is he thinking, right, okay, I'm going to do Michael Schumacher. I was never ready to retire. Obviously, Rallycross didn't go my way, and now I'm back with a team that I love and obviously ready to make prints. And is he going to win? How do you think Robert looks at this comeback for him alone? Does he think he's going to win races? Does he think he's ready? Does he think he's ready to make Williams a better team and fight in the midfield, obviously where Williams F1 should be?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt, it's one hell of a comeback, without to say the least, because whether you're a Robert Kubica fan or not, I mean, the injuries he sustained in that rally accident was, it was very life-threatening. He could have been a whole lot worse than obviously what it actually turned out to be. Obviously, he had to have operation on his arm. Obviously, you can tell by the scars and obviously the shape of his arm how bad that accident actually was and how much damage it caused him to be able to pull out of Formula 1 altogether, which was a real shame at the time, because he was one of the the hot prospects of Formula 1. When he came into Formula 1 with BMW Sauber, as they were called at the time, he was on the same level as like Hamilton and Vettel. He was on their par, and people were saying that sometimes that Robert Kubica was actually better when they compared times with Sebastian Vettel, who also was in BMW Sauber at the same time as a reserve driver. They were comparing times, and Robert Kubica was about 10th or 2 faster than Sebastian Vettel. So obviously there's a lot of prospect in him to go forth and perhaps win more races, possibly win a championship. There was a rumour that he was going to drive with Ferrari for 2012. Obviously, no one knows whether that was true or not, but Robert Kubica has kept that quiet. Has kept that quiet. But ever since, I would probably say 2015, I would say 2016, when Robert started to come back into the media spotlight, because he went away, kind of like hid away from the media, and which was a real shame at the time. Let's not forget, he was a nice guy. As like I said, very talented driver. So for him to go away like that and kind of like let himself recover, yes, it was the right thing to do. Come back into the media spotlight. There was just rumours straight away that could Robert Kubica actually come back to Formula 1, maybe as a reserve driver, maybe compete in the lower ranks first to gain his experience and his strength back, as you want to call it. So obviously there was a lot of questions raised about Robert Kubica, but everyone kept saying the same answer. No, he can't do it. Why could he do it? Because obviously, like, he hasn't got as much movement in his right arm as he did before. Like, he will struggle. He'll need help with that. How can teams do that? It's going to cost them extra money to be able to develop a car properly like that. So obviously, when he came back in F1, as I said, in 2017 to drive the car, I think everyone knew there's a real possibility. But at the same time, there was like, well, you've got the likes of Lance Stroll, you've got the likes of Sorokin, who are paying Williams these, paying Williams to be able to compete in Formula 1. So there wasn't really going to be any room. So I think Robert had to kind of, pretty much condole himself to a reserve driver role. And a lot of people thought that was going to be the case. But Robert Kubica is the fighter now. Let's not forget that. And he fought and he battled his way through to be able to try and get a seat in Formula 1, which he has done. But I don't think this is because of Robert Kubica's nature. This is because of the situation that's unfolded with Racing Point, as they call it, Racing Point Force India. The plan was, I think this is how I was going to go. The plan originally for Williams was that they were going to keep Sorokin and Stroll for 2019. That was the plan. Both of them had signed a multi-year contract when they first signed with the team, so they had another 2 years to go, for their contracts to run out. So obviously, when Force India went into administration, the person who ran the what do you call it? Oh, what's the word? Oh man, what do you call it? The consortium. That's the word. The consortium to buy Force India was Lawrence Stroll. And once that was announced, immediately everyone said Lance Stroll's going to Force India. We all knew that it was one of the worst kept secrets in Formula 1. They have finally announced it, which is probably the most pointless thing in the world. Obviously, it's like we said, shock horror. Whoa, that was really unexpected. So obviously, we all knew he was going. Then that's when George Russell was announced. Okay, he's going to be replacing Lance Stroll. We know he's going to go to Force India. Okay, obviously Williams had to get someone in quickly, and obviously George was there constantly on at the door. Let me in. I want to be at the seat. The other seat was guaranteed for Sergei Sorokin, but one of his main buyers is I think a racing firm called SMP Racing, who funded Sergei Sorokin's seat at Williams. Obviously, you can blatantly see the name visible on the car, on his overalls, and they were heavily invested in Sergei Sorokin to get that seat. They were not happy with the way Williams was being ran, and in terms of how poor the car was, they were very disappointed with that. So they apparently pulled all their funds away from Williams, and they said, nah, stuck the V sign up at them, and they said, okay, we're going to take our driver away. And then Williams is saying, no. That what they're saying is just wrong. We kind of agree with Sorokin. Okay, this isn't going to work out. That we terminate with them, not they terminate with us. It's just kind of like pointing the finger. Okay, okay, ma'am, he did this, ma'am, he did that. Who do you believe? That's for you. That's for you guys to think. So obviously Williams needed someone quick. Now Robert Kubica, yes, obviously we know his condition, But at the same time, obviously he had driven the car before. He had driven in the test in a test in pre-season practice sessions. He's done that in 2018. Obviously, he developed the steering wheel so that he could be able to drive it, obviously to his standards. And then obviously he did a post test in 2009 post test after Abu Dhabi in 2018, obviously ready to be signed for 2019. But when you compare his lap times to Sergei Sorokin's back in the test last season in 2017, that at this time it was a case of, okay, who's going to get that flip master seat? Is it going to be Sorokin or Robert Kubica? Sorokin was 2/10 faster at that time, so obviously they went with Sorokin. That's what they say. I say, he offered more money. But now the tables have turned. They're like, oh dear, like, what do we do now? We haven't got a driver. There's no one out there on the market apart from Robert Kubica. Yes, they've got Paul di Resta, but I think Paul di Resta is on really good money at Sky, and I think it would take a lot of convincing for him to leave punditry to go back into Formula One. I think his days of F1 are pretty much done, which is a bit of a shame. Obviously, left his testing role once the 2017 season was over. Now he's in full punditry. There was rumours he was going to go back. That is not the case. That's just dead. Done. So Robert Kubica coming back in Formula One, is this good for Formula One, and where's this going to lead for Robert Kubica in the future? In my opinion, this is just going to be a one-season thing. I can't see Robert Kubica making history at Williams. Williams are on a rebuilding phase. He will help them in terms of R&D, in terms of experience. He obviously needs to learn the car first, but his racing knowledge, he's been there before. You could say he's a veteran in a way. So obviously, using his knowledge against George Russell, he'll learn from George, and George will learn from Robert, and hopefully the team will move forward. And that's what Williams want to do. A bit like what they were doing, well, obviously when Michael Schumacher came into Mercedes, it was kind of like, okay, let's push forth and let's see, how, where we can go from this, and hopefully continue on like some other teams have done in the past. So I think Williams are on the right step forward by employing Robert Kubica. I can't see Robert Kubica win races. I can't see him getting on the podium unless Williams build an amazing car, but I really can't say that because they're struggling financially as well. They've lost Martini as their main sponsor. They're going to have to find money from somewhere. Obviously, the teams are bringing in, the drivers are bringing in money, as of course they are, but is it going to be enough? Remains to be seen. So my opinion, I am happy that Robert Kubica is coming back, but I don't think it's going to be for the long term. I think it's just going to be for one season. If he impresses, I think we get a contract extension. I think to be fair, but if he doesn't do well, I think it could be curtains and might get another rookie in. Someone else. Who have they got named? Mazepin. Have they got just Nikita Mazepin? I think they've just signed as a reserve driver. I think if Robert Kubica, if that and the Robert Kubica deal doesn't work out, I think Mazepin, or Marzipan as I like to call him, I think he'll be in that driver's seat. So Lyle, where do you see Robert Kubica? Okay, fast forward a year. So the 2018 season has just finished. Charles Leclerc has won the World Championship, dominated it. Ferrari fans can now rejoice that they've actually finally won a Constructors' Championship and a Drivers' Championship. Sebastian Vettel is crying in his cornflakes, or whatever they have in Germany. That's cornflake. Cornflakes, as you could say. So, where do you see Robert Kubica this time next season? Do you see him as a Williams driver, or do you see him as a?
I think
Robert goes next.
The hype around Robert coming back was. It was probably on the same league as Michael Schumacher, but obviously we weren't kind of really into Formula One at that point, to realise how much they wanted him back. Now, obviously, of course, the difference between him and Michael is Michael had 7 World Championships. He had 91 wins. Robert has 1 win. Take out the 90s, just 1. And that's just the big thing. It's like, I know they wanted him back.
90 win
I know he
difference.
brings a lot of money too. I know Tony Williams as well, but it's just like, I don't really know where it is. I mean, George Russell, 19 years old, he's hungry.
Exactly.
We have a lot of drivers that are hungry, like, we've been saying, obviously, a lot of drivers, have had to kind of give up their seats, for Robert, obviously, mainly Sergio Sorokin. And you think, like, well, why? It reminds me a little bit of, like, a Pascal Wehrlein kind of thing. Like, why did he have to leave Sauber? Like, really? I don't, really was that the actual decision? And there has been a few drivers who have fallen unlucky like that. And Robert Kubica, you know, I just don't. He hasn't got the experience to kind of back himself up into this position. I think a lot of time it's just about hype. It's just about, well, okay. There's one thing that came into my mind the other day, and it was just a bit like so when McLaren had Honda back in 2015. Obviously, they were with Mercedes. 2013, 2014 wasn't a great season. Obviously, 2015 they went to Honda. Sorry, they got Fernando Alonso back in the team, and it was like, right, okay, this is going to be the start of something great. Fernando Alonso back in McLaren, obviously Jenson Button, you know, old soul, and it's going to be Honda. It's going to be like the olden days again, and you know, all that hype beat the actual realisation and the expectation, and the fact that we're looking and we're thinking, okay, all we have is just Honda saying that we're going to be good in 2015. That's all we have to back it up. You know, they haven't been in Formula 1 in a very long time. Obviously, they were obviously backing with Jenson Button, but obviously as an engine manufacturer, especially for McLaren, obviously like they were, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, they hadn't been in, you know, for a very long time. And just to say that, you know, all that stuff, it was just hype and it was just excitement, and it was the fact that obviously a lot of people were saying, I mean, us too as well, we know we're not going to say that we weren't, we were saying, oh my god, it's, you know, a Honda back and McLaren, it's just so exciting, you know, it's going to be unbelievable, all that hype, but it was just hype at that point. Obviously it was just hype and kind of, you know, what we thought. I mean, that's a lot of time, that's all you can do. You can only think about how good something's going to be. You don't, you know, you haven't got hindsight. You can't say that's not going to be very good when you haven't even tried it yet or something like that. So we all thought Honda were going to be great, and they weren't. Now, it's a little bit like this situation with Robert. It's like Robert Kubica, you know, no wins in Rallycross, one win in Formula 1, you know, over, I don't know how long he's been in Formula 1, you know, good, maybe a few years, you know, in his first stint. Okay driver, you know, 12 podiums with a BMW Sauber. Okay, they weren't the best team in the world, but obviously they were, you know, still a midfield team. Obviously spat out some good drives as well. Obviously Sebastian Vettel, one of the big ones in 2007, and now obviously with Robert coming back, is it just hype? Is it people just thinking he's an old name, he's somebody who used to be in Formula 1, he used to be in Formula 1 in the V10 era, he raced against Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, Felipe Massa, he's like, oh my god, we need him back, and he's about to be back. And it's so exciting, you know what I mean? We're going to see like an old soul in a new Formula 1 car. So all that hype has got Robert into this seat. You know, he's just got there on hype. Yeah. And is it going to be the same as Honda? Is it just going to be like all the hype and no kind of, he hasn't brought anything to show that he's actually got what they need? Because when they think about it, I mean, Williams, you know, they're just thinking that they've just taken Robert Kubica on a bit of a hunch, and I don't think that's not unfair to say that they've just taken Robert Kubica on the fact that they're just thinking, okay, yes, he brings funds, like Jordan said, you know, yes, he is a Formula 1 driver, obviously, yes, he knows his way around, and yes, he's mature, but he hasn't got wins, he hasn't got anything to back himself up to the fact that he's going to be what Williams need. He's going to be getting 110% out of that car. He's going to be the mentor that George Russell needs. Obviously, a lot of teams need a mentor, for example, like Raikkonen and Vettel. Vettel doesn't need any mentoring, but obviously when Vettel first came to the team in 2015, they looked at Raikkonen and thought, right, okay, he's a 4-time world champion, but, you know, shut the hell up, Sebastian. Raikkonen's been in this team longer. He's going to tell you the ways. You know what I mean? You don't just go into somewhere. Like, if you're a new guy, but more experienced and young, you don't go to a company with someone there who's 20 years and start bossing him around. No, you listen in that. That's what they wanted Raikkonen to do to Vettel, and that's just one example. And they will definitely want Kubica to be the mentor that George Russell needs, and think, right, okay, look, you're an F2 world champion, which is great. We've had some great F2 champions, like obviously I said, like Hamilton, Rosberg, and Leclerc as well. Roman Grosjean, I think Esteban Ocon, obviously really, really good from that. But you know, it's Formula 1, and I've been in Formula 1 before. I can be your mentor. Now, he's been in Formula 1 before, of course he has experience, but he doesn't have anything to back himself up, and I do believe that he has got a lot of hype behind him, and it's going to flush away very, very soon. Talking about what he can achieve, of course, obviously Williams are a backfield team at the moment. They've lost sponsorship, they've lost money, they've lost a lot of resources this year. They've lost a lot of title sponsors, and of course they've lost, as you said, that SMP Sport, and they've lost Sergei Sorokin, and obviously a lot of Russian backing as well. It's quite weird, Formula 1, obviously when you get a Formula 1 driver, a lot of times you get like their country and what they bring with it. I would think like with Marcus Ericsson, he has a lot of Swedish backers, like Longbow Finance and things like that, and it's like when you lost Marcus Ericsson, you lost a lot of just everything, like you lost Sweden, you lost IKEA, you lost Swedish meatballs, it was insane. And yeah, no more IKEA. You know, all them easy to put up stools in the paddock. You know, Chase Carey goes, "Oh my gosh, we're hosting a garden party in Formula One at Monza." And then we'd normally go to IKEA to get the little chairs, but we can't get them anymore. Anyway, sorry, Sweden. Yeah, so obviously Kubica brings funding with them, but they've lost a lot, Williams, and of course, unfortunately, they're a backfield team like they were. They have this year. They've been a backfield team. They were struggling last year, but this year, I mean, sorry, but they are. They were struggling. Lance Stroll got the best out of what he could do. Sergio Rockin, as I said, got the best out of what he could do. I still think that he did a good drive, but they were pushing and that, and nothing's going to change next year. There's no engine regulations. There's changes to aerodynamics. I was watching a video from WTF1, obviously, which explained like the aerodynamics changes. It looks interesting. Is it going to change Formula 1? It's going to change it slightly, but obviously they say it's a lot. It's only aerodynamics. Obviously, I know that makes a big difference, but obviously the big change is going to be probably 2021. So Williams are probably not going to progress that much next year. If they do, that's fantastic. I'm not saying that they're not going to. I mean, obviously, of course, we've seen changes like ridiculous ones. Obviously, you remember when they went to Braun in 2009, and that was like insane. Was that from Toyota or Honda? That was insane. So we've seen changes like that, and of course, obviously, Mercedes did change overnight when obviously it went from V8 to V6s. So Williams, hopefully, they can be a good team, but they're probably not. I do believe that Robert will do a good job as a driver, but that's all he'll do. He'll just do a good job. Or he'll probably, if it's a midfield car, if it's a midfield level, obviously he'll probably just get a midfield. He'll get a supporting role. He might get like the cheeky 11th place. He might even get into the points like 10th and 9th and Q3 appearances and that. But I just hope that he's pushing and he's ready for it, because when George Russell comes in Formula 1, he is going all guns blazing. You can tell by his kind of attitude. He comes across. He's like a Jensen Button figure, and he really, really is as well. Obviously, he's very posh and British, but he comes across very nice. But when he's in the car and the visors down, he drives insanely fast, and it's been great. Obviously, watching his F2 highlights has been really, really good. Obviously, we covered him, I think, in British Week, whatever that was. And he was a good guy. He was a good guy to research. Obviously, we're thinking of GP3 at that point. F2, obviously, as I say, newly crowned world champion. So he's going to be going all guns blazing for this, and obviously he's going to get about 10% out of the car, like I've just said. But with Robert Kubica, it's like I think they will want him to be on the same level as George Russell, pushing and pushing and pushing and getting the best out of that car. And I'm sorry, I just don't feel like Robert is at the moment going to do that. And I feel like there's been a lot of hype getting him into that seat, which is good. Obviously, it has brought a lot of attention, a bit more attention, because it's an old guy, it's an old soul in Formula 1 who was in the V8 and the V10 eras, which I think it's good. I'm excited to see him back. Obviously, of course, it's exciting to see anyone back, but I just
all right then. Here's a question for you, lad. Sorry to interrupt, but here's a question for you, right? Okay, so Robert Kubica obviously coming to Williams. Immediately he's going to be under. I wouldn't say not so much really under pressure, but he is going to be quite expected to beat George Russell. Now, if George Russell, as we've just said there, is going to be a driver for his life, because he wants to impress in Formula 1. He's here for the long term. He wants to be the driver that wins the next race for Williams, wins the next championship for Williams. He wants to be that driver, hopefully, if he stays there long enough. But obviously, the situation we were talking about in the last episode about Charles Leclerc, that Sebastian Vettel is going to be under some real pressure from Charles Leclerc if Leclerc is beating Sebastian Vettel. So if George Russell is beating Robert Kubica, would Robert Kubica be under pressure? And would you, and a little early prediction for you here?
Yes, I do.
Do you think
for
Russell
the big reason, obviously, George Russell has been he's been in racing, for a lot of years. He hasn't taken any years out, as far as I'm aware. He came from GB3 to F2. He won the F2 World Championship obviously this year, and he's going into and obviously he's done loads of F1 testing as well. He's done FP1, FP2, and all that sessions. He's done the testing in Abu Dhabi as well. I think he might have done one of the in-season testings, like in Hungary or something like that, Silverstone, I believe. And he's been racing non-stop, and he's used to driving. He's used to all this stuff. Obviously, he's used to the Halo cockpit. He's used to everything. And I think because he's younger, he's got more drive, but also because, as I say in the hype, I'm not hyping him up, he has hype, but he's also got the stuff to back it up with. You know, he's ran away with this F2 World Championship, obviously beating people like Nick de Vries, you know, for example. You know, he's got the credentials to say that he is a better driver than Kubica at the moment. And because of all that stuff, you know, he's ready. He did it last year, or this year, sorry, as I say, you know, he is ready to drive. When Kubica, he has been doing testing. Yeah, okay, he did Abu Dhabi. I think he might have made an appearance at Silverstone, I don't know. He's done, you know, cheeky FP1 and FP2 sessions. He drove for Renault last year a bit, in the like simulators and that, and maybe stuff more on the side, but he hasn't been racing probably for a good few years, again because he's been recovering after his injury or whatever. Obviously that's I'm not saying obviously that's like a bad thing, but not being in the car has, yeah, of course, obviously affected him to the point where I'm not saying him not driving is like that's why he's going to be such a bad driver. I'm not saying that. It's the other way around. It's the fact that George Russell has been driving, and he has been, you know, he is F2 World Champion this year, and he's basically, as far as I'm aware, as I said, you know, being brought up every single year. He's been racing in, you know, different categories, and he's getting used to the cars so fast, and obviously he'll have been champion in this and that and the other. F2 World Champion, as I've said, and he is ready for racing. So of course he has more experience than Robert at the moment. Doesn't matter what Robert did in the past, for example, being in F1, winning a race. That doesn't matter. It's about what you do now. You know, you can't live off one race win for the rest of your life, unfortunately. So yes, George Russell is better than Robert at the moment. So to answer your question, Jordan, I believe that yes, George Russell will beat Robert next year. The reason that I feel like that, obviously, as I say, he's more ready, he's more determined. He's just younger as well, and I think they'll get the best out of the car. I do think they'll be equally matched because, you know, Williams F1. I mean, with the Williams car, it's not great. It's going to be midfield. I do think that Robert will push the car, obviously, because he's a Formula 1 driver. You're not going to be in Formula 1 if you don't push the car. But yeah, I do feel like George Russell is definitely going to be Robert Kubica, just because he has been F2 World Champion this year, and all of the experience. So there we go. So Jordan, obviously back at you again. So what do you think? Do you think George is going to beat? Do you think George is going to beat Robert, or do you think Robert is going to beat George, or do you think it's going to be like insanely close, like to the millimetre, where it's going to be like a Prost Senna or a Hamilton Rosberg?
I think I've got to agree with you, Lau, which is a very rare occasion these days. But yes, I do agree that I think George Russell will definitely do better than Robert Kubica, because yes, he has got more. Obviously, you could say yes, more experience in the modern day Formula 1 car, because when Robert Kubica was in Formula 1, the lower league cars were different. The Formula 1 cars were much different, much smaller, much slower. No halo, obviously, none of this aerodynamic rubbish. So obviously the cars were just beyond different. So George Russell is more prepared than Robert Kubica. Robert Kubica's only had I would say about 300, 400 laps worth of running in the car. George Russell's probably had, I don't know, 5,000, 6,000 in other series of cars, maybe possibly more. I don't know. That's just a rough guess off the top of my head. So George Russell is definitely more prepared. So I think he's going to be coming in it with, to be fair, I would say probably about the first 5 races up until the first European race. I think George Russell is going to have it in the bag. Obviously, Robert Kubica is going to be getting better as the season progresses. He will understand the car more. Obviously, the car will progress throughout the course of the season. We'll see what happens in obviously, as I have got pre-season as well. But George is, as I said, at the moment he's like 3 steps ahead of Robert Kubica. He could be further if Robert was a brand new driver. But obviously, Robert Kubica has that. He understands the world of Formula 1. He'll be good with the media. He'll know how to handle them. He'll know how to handle race debriefs better than George. He'll know how to talk with his team, how to give feedback. That's what Robert Kubica will be given to Williams. George will be given that fast, quick driver ability, and he's going to be the main man that will stand in front of the media and represent Williams as a whole. And I think George Russell will be. I think there'll be equal statuses, but really I think we'll see a lot more of George than we will of Robert Kubica, because I think George will be the face of the team. Robert is just going to be a standby driver for now, and I think in the course of the season, I think in 2020, at this moment in time, I think Mazepin will get that 2020 drive alongside George Russell. That's at the moment. If Robert Kubica impresses, I think he'll stay for another year. But if he doesn't, and it all goes to McLaren Honda, if you want to call it that, then I think Robert Kubica is going to be on his way out. But it seems to be a recurring thing in Formula 1 at the moment. Teams going back to old drivers. Toro Rosso, look at what they've got in their lineup. Daniel Kvyat and Alex Albon. two drivers who used to be in the Red Bull program, one of which drove for Red Bull and Toro Rosso, was demoted. So if you want to put it this way, so you've got they've appointed Alex Albon, who is a demoted driver, who replaced a demoted driver, who Red Bull have employed that demoted driver. I know, I'm just as confused as you guys. And obviously Williams have gone with the same kind of aspect. They've gone with the driver who used to be in Formula 1. We know why he left Formula 1, but now he's like, okay, we've got nobody else, let's get an old person back. I'm expecting to see the likes of Christian Dematter, Narain Carter-Kane, and Alonso's teammates at Minardi. I can't remember his name anymore, but me and Laugh were laughing about that. We were laughing about that a couple of weeks ago, but I can't remember his name now.
Oh, no.
We were laughing about it so
and then
much.
Also just quickly on, obviously,
Brendan
Hartley. Obviously, remember when he was brought into Toro Rosso? Obviously, he was he was in the Red Bull Junior program years and years ago. He was only about 29 years old, but he was thought of like an old guy in Formula 1. Obviously, partner Pierre Gasly, but and obviously he did replace Daniel Kvyat, obviously, who has been through an absolute roller coaster of a thing. But yeah, it's just it's when you think about it, I mean, it is a little bit of a strange move by Williams. Obviously, for example. Obviously, one of the big drivers, obviously, that I know me and John really like. Obviously, we've seen him drive before. Obviously, that's Nick de Vries, obviously from Holland. I think he's 20 years old. Obviously, F2 runner-up. Obviously, behind George Russell. Obviously, gave him some big battles this year. Now, I mean, I'd have thought he could have been in Formula 1. It's just like, I know it's not just a pick a name out of the hat kind of thing. It's not like oh, he's good, we'll take him. And it's not obviously like F2 is the junior of F1. Like whoever does well in F2 goes to F1 automatically. It's not like the championship to the Premier League, unfortunately. But obviously, of course, we've seen a lot of people do that. Yeah. And I think that's fantastic. I love seeing F2 drivers going into Formula 1. Obviously, like Leclerc's he's gonna be fantastic. You know he is, and obviously he did with Sauber.
I do.
And of course George Russell is. He has a lot of hype behind him, but as I say, he's got a lot of stuff to back it up. It's just when Williams just take a step back and just think, it's like they could have just taken a lot more people. If they need the money, they could have maybe looked elsewhere as well. There've been a lot of people ready to pay, ready to get that drive. I don't know. I mean, he will do a good job, but I just don't think that this decision was. I don't think it's the best decision maybe for Williams. I think it's good. I think it opens up a lot of debate. Obviously, it'll get Williams in the talk in the news because obviously, I mean, everyone's talking about Williams at the moment. A few years ago, obviously, when Pastor Maldonado won his race with Williams, it was like that's absolutely insane. Like what happened there? That got Williams talked about. And obviously that was only a one season wonder. That was only a one race wonder because obviously since then Pastor Maldonado, a few crashes, nothing at Williams after that, nothing at Lotus, and then obviously bye Pastor. Pastor was all boiled out. So it's like I don't know. This decision is just a little bit rushed, and it's just a little bit strange by Williams to do this. He's a good name, yes, don't get me wrong. Obviously, we're all excited to see what he is. I'm excited, obviously, but I get excited. We're excited, about anything that happens in Formula 1. It's like, Daniel Ricciardo brings his honey badger, as a reserve driver for Renault. It's like, that's exciting. Anything's exciting in Formula 1. Obviously, we just love anything Formula 1-y. But I just think that it's exciting. Yes, I agree. Jordan agrees as well, but it's a little bit of a strange move. George probably will walk over Robert a little bit. So this is the final question, John. I'm just going to chuck at you. Is Robert Kubica going to be the mentor for George? Because as I've said, obviously, like Raikkonen and Vettel, the old guy in the team, he tells them where to be. He's like the Jedi Master. He takes control over the teammate. And obviously, we've seen that obviously, of course, before. There's loads of examples where the guy in the team, the first guy in the team, will tell the other guy in the team where to go. So will Robert Kubica be the mentor? The older guy, the guy with previous Formula 1 experience. Will he be the mentor that George Russell needs?
Oh yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Like I said before, Robert Kubica is going to bring that experience with him. That not only for driving, but for, as I said, handling the media, race debriefs, how to give feedback. George Russell is going to learn a lot from Robert Kubica. It really, really is. And obviously, the longer that Robert's there, the more it's going to benefit not only Williams but George Russell himself. He's going to take that experience, and obviously, I would say one day when he does win the World Championship with the likes of Mercedes or Ferrari or wherever he goes in the future, he'll probably go, oh, it's all down to the likes of George Russell. It's all down to the likes of Robert Kubica and the Williams team who helped me progress, and obviously I learned a lot from him. And obviously I would imagine when Robert Kubica probably does leave Formula 1, George Russell is still here, they'll go, oh, so what do you think of Robert Kubica leaving? He'll probably credit him about his experience, about how I learned a lot from him. He's a good mentor. So yes, I think George Russell is going to learn loads from Robert Kubica. And obviously, and as like I said before, George Russell will be mentor for Robert Kubica, because then George Russell will give him some, modern day up to terms feedback on the car, and Robert Kubica will take that in his stride and put that in the car. And that's what I was saying, that eventually Robert Kubica will learn the car much better, and eventually he might start having a bit of battle between the two. But as like I said, I can't see George Russell being a quote. This could be a Stroll, not anymore. In the park,
it could be. I agree with you. I mean, a Stroll. Obviously, a Stroll. No, okay, fine. A Stroll at Williams. A Stroll at Williams.
There's no Stroll there anymore.
It's not going to be Stroll in other aspects of Formula 1, even though obviously, of course, he's going to be a great driver. But yeah, okay. So to wrap it all up, obviously, we think it's going to be. It's going to be a great addition to Formula 1. I think I think Robert Kubica being here is fantastic. It's really thrown Williams into the limelight again. They haven't got a car, they need to really work on the car, but they have someone behind themselves with a bit of knowledge, obviously Formula 1 knowledge, 33 years old, he is an old guy in Formula 1, and yeah, I think, I don't, it's not exciting. I mean, it's not exciting, that is exciting, that's what I mean. So, it is exciting, because obviously it's an old guy in Formula 1, the guy who was around in the V10 era, of course it's exciting, but it's not maybe the best decision that Williams ever made. It's not an decision where we're like jumping for joy. It's just exciting to see. Really, that was the end of the episode. It's exciting to see. Very anticlimactic, isn't it? But yeah, it's just exciting to see. So obviously, and that is the end of the episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Obviously, if you're new around here, make sure to like and subscribe to the F1 Debate Show channel. Obviously, we are at episode 98. This one, I believe. Obviously, we're going to end the year. Obviously, surpassing 100 episodes. Yes. Obviously, going into next year, 2019, with a big line. Obviously, some big ideas for you guys. Make sure to comment. Obviously, what you think about Robert Kubica. What do you think about George Russell? What do you think about Jordan's new haircuts? And if you also like the video, obviously if you dislike it, which you are free to do so, tell us why. Tell us why you dislike it. Obviously, we like change. We like to work out, what is, if there is a problem. So obviously, thank you very much for watching, guys, and obviously until next episode, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys. Thank you very much for watching.